Hello and welcome back to the John Patrick channel where we talk about politics, leadership, and governance. Yeah, on today's episode, we're talking about the Federal Executive Council of Nigeria, which is the highest decision making body of the executive arm of Nigeria. Now, this is a very, very important topic, and I would like you to pay close attention because most Nigerians do not know what to expect, or they really do not pay attention to the Federal Executive Council, what they are supposed to do for Nigerians, what they are supposed to do to Nigerians, and with Nigerians. Do you understand? So they all think, oh, the duties of leading the country is on the president, whereas there is a team he works with, which is known as the Federal Executive Council. So join me as I explain what the Federal Executive Council of Nigeria means. As I said in the introduction, the Federal Executive Council is the highest decision making body of the executive arm of Nigeria. This means that all of the policies, all of the programs, all of the strategies, all of the executions of ideas that make Nigeria become a better country is largely rested on the Federal Executive Council, because this is a team of players that bring ideas together, deliberate on them, and ensure that they make the best ideas, the best decisions, the best strategies to move Nigeria from whatever stage it is at the time to where they deem it fit. So they walk through all of this process to ensure that Nigeria becomes a better place for the people and for its neighbors. Do you understand? So the Federal Executive Council is established under Section 144, subsection 5 of the 1999 Constitution, and is chaired by the President. Do you understand now? So this means that the Executive Council is, by the Constitution, allowed to be presided by the President. Now, there's a structure to the Federal Executive Council, and this helps for orderliness and easy flow of the meeting. As I said earlier, the Federal Executive Council, or FEC, is chaired by the President and is deputized, or the deputy chairman, so to say, is the Vice President. And this is the leadership of the Federal Executive Council, and they are the only elected members of the Federal Executive Council, while other members are the ministers, which are nominated by the president and approved by the Senate. Do you understand? And the other member of the Federal Executive Council is the secretary to the government of the federation. Do you understand now? And after this, the president can also decide, depending on the meeting or the agenda for the meeting, decide who he thinks or deems fit should be a part of that meeting. For example, if they're going to discuss security, for example, they could invite the IG of police or several security operatives into the meeting. Do you understand? So as to ensure that the issue on ground is adequately deliberated on and the best decision is made. Now, there is a function of the Federal Executive Council. This means that they have what they can do and what they can't do. Like I explained in previous episodes, the arms of government have different responsibilities, same as the Federal Executive Council, which is the highest decision making body of the Executive Council. They have different responsibilities, and I'll be highlighting just a few. I think I have just about 6 of these responsibilities here. And the first on my list is policy formulation and implementation. It is the duty of the FEC to bring about policies, formulate policies, and implement them. This means that the Federal Executive Council will come together, bring ideas. That is why there are a whole lot of ministers who are heading different ministries. So they bring about ideas. The aviation minister, for example, bring about ideas to ensure that our aviation in Nigeria, our airlines in Nigeria perform better. The minister of power will bring up ideas to, oh, this is why we should have better electricity. Several other ministers will also bring up their ideas. They will deliberate on it and bring up programs and projects that will make the country better. They also develop strategies for economic, social, and political development. This means also, like I said, that all of these ideas are brought together to ensure that there is a development in the country across all sectors. The next function of the Federal Executive Council is budget approval and financial planning. Now, a member of the Federal Executive Council cannot just go about doing whatever him or her feels or deems fit for the country. But when they have their meetings, they bring their ideas, as I said, and they deliberate on it. So budgets are put in place for such programs that have been deliberated and approved. Do you understand? So they also deliberate on the budgets. They review and approve national budgets for submission to the National Assembly. Now, like I said in other episodes, all of the arms of government do not function independently, and I'll also be explaining that. Let me leave that for later. I should not go ahead of myself. Another major function and responsibility of the FEC is supervision of ministries. Like I said, the chairman of the Federal Executive Council is the president, and assisted by the vice president. They ensure that all of the ministries function as they ought to. If a minister is not doing what they ought to do, it's the duty of the Federal Executive Council to look into it and, oh, minister, you are not doing what you ought to do. Your ministry is not functioning. Your ministry is not giving value to Nigerians across the country. So it's the fact that would sit and decide, oh, what ministry is functioning, what ministry is not functioning, what can we do to ensure that this ministry is doing what is expected according to the plans and programs of the government. Do you understand? Another thing is they ensure that ministry works in line with government's priorities. For example, the federal government could decide that, oh, we want to solve the electricity problem, while the minister for power is doing something else, just going about the country doing whatever him or her feels like doing. No, it's the Federal Executive Council's duty to call such a minister to order that these are our priorities. This is what we want to do. You don't go ahead doing something else. So every ministry is meant to go according to the federal government's priorities. Another major function and responsibility is contract and procurement approval. No contract is approved or carried out without the approval of the FEC, which means that the president, for example, cannot decide to or should not decide to take something up or carry out a policy without the FEC approval or without the FEC deciding on it, or a minister or the secretary to the federal government decides to go about doing something, or the vice president decides to go about doing something without the approval of the FEC, it's wrong. Do you understand? So contract and procurement approvals must be gotten from the Federal Executive Council. This means that before a minister would go about carrying out projects, making procurement of different things, different items, different equipments to ensure that they carry out their duties, it must first of all be approved by the FEC. Who do you award contracts to? At what time? The duration, the budget, the cost, the expenditures, everything. All of these are decided by the FEC, not just the minister, not just the president, not anyone. Do you understand? Another major responsibility of the Federal Executive Council is national security and defense. This is a major role and responsibility of the Executive Council, because of the Federal Executive Council, because no one will guard the country for Nigeria. Other countries can't protect us. We have to protect ourselves. This is why the national security and defense is a major responsibility of the FEC. So they are to sit and ensure that, oh, what part of Nigeria is facing security issues? How can we defend our borders? How can we ensure that our people are safe? Is it's easy and good, or convenient for Nigerians to carry out their business, go about their activities. It's the fact that will sit and make decisions, make policies to ensure that the country is safe. If there's insecurity in any part of the country, is the duty of the FEC, of the Federal Executive Council, to look into it. That is why, if you remember, or if you take note, you would have noticed that I made mention that amongst the members of the Federal Executive Council, the president can invite anyone or someone into the meeting to decide. Okay, for example, if the president is going to have a meeting and have a Federal Executive Council meeting, and it's going to be on insecurity, for example, the IG of police will be present, other agencies, other security agencies will be present to talk about what's going on and how they can improve security. I hope that explains it. Now, the last duties on my list here is coordination with other government arms, which this is very simple. I've one way or the other explained this. Now, it means that the Federal Executive Council works with National Assembly on policy approvals. This means that whatever decision the federal government or the Federal Executive Council make, they can't just go ahead and carry it out. They need the approval of the National Assembly before they can go about it. Their budget needs to go through the National Assembly, and their programs also need to go through the National Assembly. Also, collaboration with state and local governments on national programs. This is another responsibility of the Federal Executive Council. They can't, for example, the Federal Capital Territory is Abuja. They can't, the Federal Executive Council can not carry out their activities from Abuja. They need to go to states, they need to go to the local government to ensure that their programs are being carried out. And for them to do this, they need to collaborate with the state government and the local government in achieving all of these programs. And now we are going to discuss how the Federal Executive Council works. How does the Federal Executive Council work? We are going to look at the meeting, how they meet, when do they meet, the decision making process, and the implementation of this process is quite simple to explain, and it's also quite tedious in the sense that it's a very rigorous process at times. And their meetings hold weekly on Wednesdays. This means that the Federal Executive Council comes together every Wednesday to decide on policies, on programs, to deliberate on whatever activities they want to carry out that week or the month, for the month, or to review what has been done. So, like every organization, there's going to be board meetings, there's going to be executive meetings. Or what do we need to do this week? What do we need to carry out this month? What have we done in the previous weeks? Do we need to correct something somewhere? Do we need to add up some things? Do we need to subtract something? So the executive council meetings hold every Wednesday, except for probably there's the president is not around, the VP takes charge and presides over the FEC, or there's a public holiday or something. Aside all of those reasons, every Wednesday the FEC meets. Now, next is decision making or at the Federal Executive Council meeting. Ministers present their memos, their policy proposals, which are going to be discussed and either approved or rejected. Now, it is during their meeting that the ministers bring up their ideas. Oh, as the minister for transportation, I have so and so ideas to ensure that this transportation system of Nigeria goes smoothly and is better, so that Nigerians can move from location A to location B safely. You understand, on good roads with good buses, transportation system is good, it's fast, it's reliable. Then it's at that point the minister for transport will come, oh, this and this are what we need to do to improve the transportation system of Nigeria. At this point, they will now deliberate. Okay, this is good. This is not good. We're going to remove this or improve on this, edit this, make this work better, bring better ideas. Then, if it's going to be approved or rejected, it's going to be in that meeting. Do you understand? That is why it is a very, very important meeting, not just for the ministers, not just for the president or the vice president, but for Nigerians, because it's the crucial meeting where big decisions are being made. Also, implementation, approved policies are assigned to relevant ministries. For example, if the idea is coming from the president or the vice president, for example, it's going to be appointed to particular ministries or ministries that are relevant, such ideas are relevant to. Do you understand now? So, if the idea is coming from the president, is now going to, after it has been deliberated on, you now look at, oh, what ministry can work on this idea. Then you take it. Oh, for example, of finance, we are to take up this idea and see to it that it is properly implemented. So that idea will be given to the minister for finance, and he would run with it, take it to his ministry and ensure that it is properly carried out. So that is it for the implementation of the decisions made during the Federal Executive Council meeting. The next thing I'll be talking about is the relationship between the Federal Executive Council and the legislature. There is always a relationship between both, because they can't work independently of themselves. For example, in the first place, ministers, as I said earlier, ministers are not elected. They don't get elected during elections, during general elections. Ministers don't get elected. They only get appointed by the president. They got nominated by the president. The Senate would approve of their appointment, and president goes on to appoint them as ministers over whatever ministry. Do you understand? So it's not the case that the president just, oh, you become the minister for finance, you become the minister for power, you become the minister for, and automatically they get into post office. No, that's not the way it's done. They would go through a screening process by the Senate, and by the Senate would approve them or remove or reject them. If a particular person is being rejected for whatever reason, the president will have to nominate another person for such a position until the Senate approves of the appointment. Then that individual becomes the minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and automatically becomes a member of the Federal Executive Council. Also, the National Assembly provides oversight on Federal Executive Council policies, their budget, and expenditures. Now, this means that before the Federal Executive Council can go on to make whatever decision, they need the approval of the Senate, yes, of the House of Assembly, the general body. This means that, for example, let's talk about the budget. For example, every year the president presents the budget to the House of Assembly, and it is accepted and deliberated on. Whatever they think is not necessary, they will take out, and they can also add what they think ought to be in the budget. So the president would not just come up with the budget and then start to work on it. It's the duty of the legislature to sit on it, go through it, and then approve the budget before it is being implemented or carried out. Also, the policies, what kind of policies are the Federal Executive Council coming up with? Is the legislature that will sit and say, oh, this policy is good for the country, this policy is not good for the country. For example, the federal government wants to increase the tax, or let's say the VAT, for example. It's the duty of the House of Assembly to sit on it and say, no, this is too much, let's make it this, let's bring it down, or is this okay at this price? What would they see? So it's now the duty of the members of the House of Assembly to now accept, oh, are we going to go with this, or are we going to reject this? Should this be done this way, or should it be changed? When they now agree to a particular decision, then it's going to be approved. It's at that point that the Federal Executive Council can now begin to work on it. And lastly, or finally, ministers can be summoned by the legislature for questioning. As I said, the policies and the programs of each ministry would have to be reviewed by the House of Assembly, of by the legislature. So they would, if they have questions for them, why do you think this is proper, or why do you think Nigerians need these policies? Why is this policy or this program beneficial? How is it beneficial to Nigerians? So it's the duty of the ministers to answer these questions when they are being summoned. Probably, yes, for policies or for mismanagement of funds, for example. If the legislature sees that such a minister mismanaged the budgets that was allocated to his ministry, the legislature would summon the minister for questioning. Do you understand? And after this decision is being made. So these are the three major ways that the Federal Executive Council is in relationship with the legislature. So I hope you understand what the Federal Executive Council means and their duties as I have explained. So in the next video, I'll be talking about how they work, going deep into the members of the Executive Council, the ministers, their ministries, how they carry out their duties and their policies. That's what we'll be talking about in the next video. See you there. Thank you. I trust that in today's video you've learned something about the Federal Executive Council, and if truly you did, I'm sure you want some other persons to learn. So I advise that you share this video, copy the link, share it to your friends and families so that they could learn what the Federal Executive Council means. Also, you can give us a thumbs up if truly you learned something. And if you are yet to subscribe, probably it's your first time of coming across this channel, please do well to subscribe so that you can always get our videos. And do not forget to put on the notification bell, so as soon as we upload a new video, you get notification that yes, there is a new video, so you do not miss an episode. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'm glad you've learned something about the Federal Executive Council. See you in the next video. Bye bye.